I'm trying to screen on the top. I was peacocking.
Okay, so we are unmuted.
30 seconds, guys.
We are unmuted as well, just so that they're aware. Okay, we're live, Mayor Foxton. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Dumfries Public Planning Meeting for May 17th. We have 4 Committee of Adjustment applications and 1 Public Planning Meeting application scheduled for this evening's meetings. Members of the public are able to attend to the Township office in person and speak to any application or register with the Clerk's Division to attend electronically. Members of the public who have registered to attend electronically have been provided with a Zoom link to join the meeting this evening and have indicated to staff which application they would like to participate in. Staff will move these individuals who have registered into the meeting to speak in the order of the applications being heard, and those who are present in person will be able to speak to the application when it is reached on the agenda and will be asked to approach the podium to speak. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to participate in this open meeting electronically. Attend the Township office located at 2958 Greenfield Road in the Dumfries Room. Watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township's YouTube page. You cannot directly participate in the meeting via the live stream, as this is for viewing only. Attend electronically to observe the meeting or to speak to an item on the agenda. Submit written comments to the Clerk's Division that will be provided to the Mayor and Council prior to the meeting and will form part of the public record. I'd now like to call this meeting to order, and can I have approval of the agenda, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rowland, that Council adopt May 17th, 2022 public meeting agenda as presented with the following addendums. 1, amend the staff recommendation for item 7.2, report number PD 18/2022, consent application for 1786 Sheller Road, file number B02/22, amend the cash in lieu payment for the provision of parkland from $6,000 to $7,500. 2, add 2 pieces of correspondence received for item 8.1, report number PD 24/2022, statutory public meeting, Westwood Village Phase 2, files number ZC0321, OPA 0121, 30T 21301, and 30T 21302.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I would now like to do the Territorial Indigenous Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Mutual people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Canadian. I'd now like to take a moment to reflect as we think about what has happened in the past, as we move forward today with our Indigenous partners for a more positive future. Thank you. Do any members of council have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have adoption of the minutes, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rowland, that Council approve public planning meeting minutes dated April 26th, 2022.
All those in favor? Thank you. Now a motion to adjourn and sit as Committee of Adjustment. Councillor Gillespie.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCurry that council meeting be adjourned at 7:04 PM in Citizens Committee of Adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we have the Committee of Adjustment minutes.
Moved by myself, so by Councillor Gillespie, that committee adjustment approved the meeting minutes dated April 26, 2022.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And next, we're going to pause while people are moved in. And Cynthia, you'll let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
Thank you. So next up is report number PD-18-2022. It's consent application for 1786 Sherwood Road, file number B-02/2022. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and or have registered with the Books Division to attend the meeting this evening. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Christina Blazanovic, Planner GIS Technician, who will be presenting the application. Christina, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Councilors, and Administration. This evening, I will be presenting the recommendation report regarding consent application B-02/22 for 1786 Shellard Road. A public meeting was held on April 26 to solicit comments from members of the public. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of this application. Subject property is located on the west side of Shellard Road and south of Clyde Road. Subject property is municipally addressed as 1786 Shellard Road and currently consists of an irregularly shaped lot. There's an existing two-story single detached dwelling with an attached garage, a tennis court, and a detached garage. The subject property is approximately 9.09 hectares or 22.47 acres in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of approximately 349 meters on Shellard Road. The property is zoned agriculture, rural residential, environmental protection 1, environmental protection overlay, and exemption 20.1.64 applies to the southern portion of the property outside of the settlement area shown in blue. The applicant proposes to sever the subject property, creating one new residential building lot. The proposed retained lot will be the existing residential dwelling unit identified. The proposed retained lot will contain the existing residential dwelling unit identified as item B. The proposed severed lot will be approximately 8.68 hectares in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 301 meters on Shellard Road. The severed lot is labeled as item C. Item D is of the proposed severed lot is located within the Mackay settlement area, and item E is the portion of the severed property located outside of the Mackay settlement area. It is the intent that a new residential dwelling unit will be constructed on the northern portion of the severed lot identified as item D. Item D currently contains a detached garage with an enclosed addition that has since been removed. The proposed retained lot situated at the north end of the property, item B, will be approximately 0.4 hectares in size with a frontage of 48 meters on Shellard Road. There have been no comments or concerns from any members of the public. There are no objections from Enbridge Gas, Region of Waterloo, GRCA, Bell Canada, or the Waterloo Catholic District School Board. Comments from the Public Works and Engineering Department, Building Department, and Grand Bridge Energy, formerly Energy Plus, have been included as part of the conditions for provisional approval. The proposed consent application aligns with policy 1.1.3.1 of the provincial policy statement, as it states that the settlement area shall be the focus of growth and development. Policy 2.2.1 of the growth plan also states that growth will be directed to settlement areas. This proposed new dwelling will be constructed on the portion of the severed lot that is within the settlement area. As per policy 1.1.3.2, the proposed consent and future dwelling is an efficient use of land and appropriate for the subject property. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed consent is compatible. Staff's planning opinion is based on the following: that the application aligns with the PPS, Growth Plan, Regional Official Plan, and Township Official Plan. The new boundaries of the retained lot will generally align with the size and boundaries of neighboring properties. There is no impact on existing environmental features. The proposed area for the new detached dwelling will be located within the Mackey settlement area boundary. The detached garage addition has been removed. No major comments or concerns were received from any members of the public, and any remaining comments and concerns from agencies will be addressed through the conditions of provisional approval. Based on the planning analysis, staff recommend that consent B-02/22 for 1786 Shellard Road be approved with conditions. As there are quite a few conditions listed, some of the key conditions include that the owner applicant pay the township the sum of $7,500 as cash in lieu payment for the provision of parkland, that the conditions that were listed by Grandbridge Energy or Energy Plus be completed to the satisfaction of Grandbridge Energy, that the applicant or owner apply for and enter into a development agreement with the township that will address items including the location of buildings and structures, landscaping, relocation of driveway, lot grading and drainage, and site servicing. The owner shall agree that the development agreement will be registered against the title of the proposed retained and severed properties. The owner applicant agrees to confirm the location of the septic system on the retained lot and provides a condition assessment verified by a licensed septic installer and to the satisfaction of the Township of North Dumfries. That the owner applicant relocate the proposed driveway to prevent any conflicts with the existing easement to the satisfaction of the Township of North Dumfries. And lastly, that the zoning amendment application, zone change 02/22, to amend the land use classification and site-specific exemption be approved. Thank you.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. Would either Evan Whitman or Jackie Escobar like to say anything?
I'll just quickly add that we've given a chance to read over the staff report, and we're supportive of the recommendation for the consent.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to state anything on this application? Seeing no one, members of council, any comments? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please? You do not have to read it in its entirety.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie that PG report number 18/2022 be received, and that consent application B-222, being a request to sever the property at 1786 Shellard Road to create a new residential building lot with approximately 301 meters of lot frontage onto Shellard Road and corresponding lot area of 8.68 hectares in size be approved, subject to the conditions A to N as found in the report.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Cynthia, you're advised when you're ready.
Ready?
Thank you. We'll next move on to 7.3, report number PD-19-2022, minor variance application for 37 Henry McNarical Street, file number A-01/22. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and/or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. If you are here personally, would you please sign the sign-in sheet at the door front there so that we can contact you on any future decisions. I'd like to introduce Christina again, Planner GIS Technician, who will be presenting this application. Christina, please.
Thank you. This presentation is presenting a recommendation report regarding minor variance application A-01/22 for 37 Henry Miracle Street. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of this application. The property is located north of Leslie Davis Street, south of Gourlay Farm Lane, and municipally addressed as 37 Henry Miracle Street. The rectangular shaped lot is 0.08 acres or 336 meters squared in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 10.89 meters or 35.72 feet. The property is currently vacant with a pending building permit. A two-story single detached dwelling is proposed on this lot. The subject property and the adjacent lands represent Phase 1A of the Legacy subdivision. Construction of new residences is underway within this phase of the development. The property is serviced by municipal water and sewer. The property is designated as urban residential and ancillary on map 2.1 of the township official plan, and the property is zoned as Z4D urban residential with exemption 20.1.312. The applicant is proposing the construction of a single detached dwelling with a reduced lot width. The lot lines of this property are not completely parallel, thus the illustration of 4B applies when calculating the lot frontage. The frontage is measured at the specified distance in the bylaw for the minimum front yard. The minimum front yard required by the bylaw for this property is 3.75 meters. The frontage at this distance is 10.89 meters, and the required distance is 10.97 meters, as shown in the photo to the right. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of the general zoning bylaw to construct a single detached dwelling with a reduced lot width. The variance being requested is to permit a lot width of 10.89 meters, whereas the applicable provisions within section 20.1.312 requires a minimum lot width of 10.97 meters. The criteria when reviewing minor variance applications set out by section 45 of the Planning Act include the following 4 tests. If the variance is minor in nature, if the variance is desirable, if the variance is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and if the variance is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the official plan. No comments or concerns have been received from any members of the public. No objections received from the GRCA, Region of Waterloo, Public Works and Engineering, Waterloo Catholic District School Board, Waterloo Region District School Board, or the Building Department. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed minor variance is compatible. Staff's planning opinion is based on the following. No major comments or concerns were received by agencies or the public. The application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. The reduced lot width will not affect the location of the house within the lot. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variance meet the 4 tests of a minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first test being that the variance conforms with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. This proposed single detached dwelling meets all other zoning requirements of the existing zone and site-specific exemption. The lot width reduction of 0.08 meters still maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. Does the variance conform to the general intent of the official plan? The subject property is designated urban residential and ancillary, which supports a mix and range of housing, including single detached dwellings. Is the proposed variance desirable? This proposed development of a single detached dwelling is permitted in the zone and compatible with the subject property. The proposed location of the detached dwelling will remain the same and will not affect neighboring properties. And lastly is the variance minor in nature. The requested reduction in lot width of 0.08 meters or 3 inches will not affect adjacent properties. The proposed single detached dwelling can be accommodated within this required side yard setback and front and rear yard setbacks. Based on the planning analysis, staff recommend that minor variance application A-01/22 for 37 Henry Miracle Street be approved subject to the following. That the subject property located at 37 Henry Miracle Street shall have a minimum lot width of 10.89 meters or 35.72 feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Would Christian Tesmendis or Victor Lebec like to state anything?
Hi, my name is Christian Simonides. I'd just like to add a couple of comments in. So we have read the staff recommendation report, and we agree with their recommendation for approval. So,
Thank you. Is there any member in the public that wishes to make any comments? Seeing none, councillors, any comments or questions? Once again, seeing none, can I have a motion, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Roman, that PD report number 19/2022 be received, and that minor variance application A122, being a request to permit a reduced lot width to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling, be approved, subject to the following conditions. The subject property located at 37 Henry Miracle Street shall have a minimum lot width of 10.89 meters.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you once again, your advisement ready.
Ready?
Thank you. Next up is report numbers PD-20-2022 minor variance application from 26 Gourlay Farms Lane, file number A-02/22. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will report everyone who has commented on this application, attended and/or have registered with the Clerk Division to attend this meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. Please ensure that you're signed in the sign-in sheets if you wish to be notified. I'd like to once again introduce Christina, the planner and GIS technician, who will be presenting this application. Christina, please.
Thank you. The third presentation tonight is information report regarding minor variance application A-02/22 for 26 Gourlay Farm Lane. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments, and identify issues or matters to be assessed by staff. The purpose of this minor variance application is to facilitate the construction of a gazebo and pergola structure within the rear yard setback of the property. The property is located on the north side of Gourlay Farm Lane between Henry Miracle Street and Vincent Drive. The rectangular shaped lot is 0.09 acres or 363 meters squared in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 12.18 meters or 39.96 feet on Gourlay Farm Lane. The property consists of a two-story single detached dwelling. The property is designated as urban residential and ancillary on map 2.1 of the Township Official Plan, and the subject property is 4D urban residential with exemption 20.1.312. The owner is proposing the construction of a gazebo and pergola over a stone patio. The structure will be physically attached to the dwelling, which makes this a part of the residential building. The east half is proposed to be a pergola, so the roof structure is open, and the west half of the proposed structure is going to be a gazebo with the covered roof. The proposed structure will be 9.48 meters or 31.10 feet wide and extend 5.48 meters or 17.98 feet into the rear yard. The total area of the proposed structure is 51.95 meters squared or approximately 559 square feet. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of the general zoning bylaw to construct a gazebo and pergola structure within the required rear yard setback. The variance being requested is to permit a rear yard dwelling setback of 2.08 meters, whereas the general zoning bylaw requires a setback of 7.5 meters. The criteria when reviewing minor variance applications set out by Section 45 of the Planning Act include the following 4 tests: if the variance is minor, if the variance is desirable, if the variance is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and if the variance is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the official plan. No comments or concerns have been received from any members of the public. There is no objections received from the Region of Waterloo, Waterloo Catholic District School Board, or Waterloo Region District School Board. One comment from Public Works and Engineering is that a revised individual lot grading plan is required to evaluate the impact of the grading on adjacent lots. Staff will be considering matters for the future recommendation report to the committee, including all comments and correspondence received, that the proposed variance meets the criteria of the 4 tests as set out by Section 45 of the Planning Act, to ensure the size and height of the proposed gazebo or pergola does not negatively impact the surrounding area, and specifically the emerging residential uses on abutting properties to the side and rear of this lot. Whether development conforms to the official plan, whether the general intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained, and if the proposed gazebo or pergola is out of character with similar homes situated in the surrounding neighborhood. The recommendation of staff to committee is that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I see we have John and Christina looked in. Would they like to say anything?
I mean, we're just trying to provide a nice outdoor space that is in keeping with our new home, and we are not looking to impact the neighborhood whatsoever. We've seen a lot of houses that had, fabric gazebos put outside, and they get picked up by the wind. We're trying to do something that is nice and will look nice in the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak on this item? Seeing no one, members of council? Seeing none, can I have the motion, please? Oh, I apologize. Go ahead, Councilor McCreary.
I'm just wondering what could potentially be in the rear yard. Like, there could be a house behind that eventually. Okay, so this area isn't built up at this time, so that if there were neighbors that wanted to object, they just don't live there right now. Basically, it's.
So, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Curry, about 75% of the dwellings within phase 1A of the legacy plan are now built. So the aerial photo obviously goes back about 18 months ago. So today, Goulet Farm Lane is almost fully built out, and development is actually occurring down Henry Maracle Street. So you do have flanking properties today around this address, and those residences would have been contacted. The lands to the north, where the rear yard would be, those are the next phase of development, and that phase has not yet been registered to create individual lot title.
Anything further, Councilor McCreary?
So it would be the lot to the north that would be most negatively impacted by the loss of the rear yard setback. It's vacant right now.
Flanking lots to the east and west would be standard residential setback that would be in line with the existing residence. So they potentially could be impacted. But to your point, yes, the future rear yard resident to the north, there would be a reduction. A traditional setback in this zone classification is 7.5 meters. And as noted, the variance would be approximately 2.4 meters.
John, your time is done because, but I'm going to allow you to speak just for a few minutes. Go ahead, John.
The only other thing that I would state on this is that in speaking with the building department, is my understanding that you can.
John, can you speak up, please? We can't hear you very well.
Sorry, in speaking with the building department when I was proposing this project, I mean, we had conflicting information when we came through to begin with, but I was told that I could have a structure that was not attached to the home and I could be within 1 foot of the rear yard. And the only difference in what I'm proposing is that it would be attached by a ledger board to the back of the home. So I think, you know, when we're talking about setbacks from the normal distance to the rear yard, you can put a shed or structure up to 108 square feet, and it'd be, you know, a foot from the rear yard, and I'm not proposing that. I'm going to be about 8 feet back from that rear yard.
Thank you, John, and a very valid point. Councillor Roman.
Madam Mayor, through to the CAO, I'm just curious, what is the timeline for building the lots behind this property, the one that Councillor Kerr is referring to?
So Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Bowman, we are actually at this point in time reviewing the subdivision agreement and the associated engineering drawings for this next phase. So we anticipate site servicing and moving toward registration of that next increment of development later this fall.
Councillor Roman, proceed.
Madam Mayor, so just to follow up and perhaps on a similar tangent to Councilor McCreary, would it be prudent for us to defer this until such a time that those future lots are underway and that those potential new homeowners have an opportunity to state their opinion, their concerns about this project? And are we being premature when we're perhaps, 6 months away from having this built out? So maybe we should look at, can we defer this to such a time that is being developed?
If I may, that may take up to a year or 2 years. These people just want a sort of back deck type thing. And as the applicant stated, they could put a shed right at that back property and be a lot closer than what this deck would be. And we're not approving this today, as stated in the report. It is going back for further study. Councilor McCreary.
Oh, I'm hearing the point that you could have a detached shed a meter away, but this isn't a detached shed. That's why we're here tonight. It is actually, because it is attached to their house, it is part of the house. So it should be evaluated as part of the house.
That's correct, and that's why it's here at to the Committee of Adjustment. So no more further questions. Can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Gillespie, that the Committee of Adjustment received P report number 20-2022, and that all information received through the public meeting process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report on the disposition of minor variance application A-02-22.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Ashley, you'll advise when we're ready for the next one. Not Ashley. Cynthia, please.
Ready.
Thank you. 7.5 is report number PD-21-2022, minor variance application for West Mill Street and Goldie Mill Road, file number A03/22. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and/or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision on the convening of future meetings. Please sign in on the sign-in sheet if you want to receive the notification. I'd now like to introduce Christina Blazanovic, Planner GIS Technician, who will be presenting this application. Christina, please.
Yeah. Last presentation this evening is a recommendation report regarding minor variance application A-03/22 for West Mill Street and Goldie Mill Road, also known as Freer Homes. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to advance a recommendation for the committee's consideration on the merits of this application. The property is located at the southeast corner of Northumberland Street and Greenfield Road. There are 3 internal roads, including Goldie Mill Road, West Mill Street, and Mudge's Mill Lane, that will provide direct access to the future dwelling units and form part of the future plan of condominium private road network. The irregularly shaped lot is 2.05 hectares or 5.06 acres in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 131 meters or 429.79 feet on Northumberland Street and 100 meters on Greenfield Road or 328.08 feet. Construction of the townhouse dwelling units within this pending plan of condominium development has commenced. The property is designated as urban residential and ancillary on map 2.1 of the township official plan. The subject property is zoned as Z5 urban residential with exemption 20.1.319. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of the general zoning bylaw to construct 61-row townhouse dwellings with a reduced rear yard. The purpose of the variance is to facilitate a rear yard common corridor that will allow residents to access their rear yards without having to walk through their dwelling units. The variance being requested is to permit a minimum rear yard of 6.0 meters, whereas the applicable provision within section 20.1.319 requires a minimum rear yard of 7.5 meters. The criteria when reviewing minor variance applications set out by section 45 of the Planning Act include the following 4 tests: if the variance is minor, if the variance is desirable, if the variance is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, and if the variance is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the official plan. No comments or concerns have been received from any members of the public. There have been no objections from the Region of Waterloo, Waterloo Catholic District School Board, GRCA, Building Department, or Public Works and Engineering Department. CP Rail recommended a condition that to be added to all property and tenancy agreements and offers of purchase and sale for all dwelling units. Staff have included this warning clause already during earlier planning approvals associated with the zoning bylaw amendment and site plan agreement applications. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed minor variance is compatible. Staff's planning opinion is based on the following: that no major comments or concerns were received by agencies or the public, that the application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and that the general intent of both the official plan and zoning bylaw are maintained. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variance meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first test being that the variance conforms with the general intent of the zoning bylaw. A reduction of 1.5 meter meets the intent of the zoning bylaw, as a 6 meter rear yard is still sufficient room for a rear yard amenity area and will not create a negative impact. Does the variance conform to the general intent of the official plan? The subject property is located within township urban area and designated Greenfield area. The development of 61-row townhouse dwellings is encouraged in this area, as the designation is intended to serve as a primary focus for growth and development in the township. Is the proposed variance desirable? The variance being pursued is to facilitate a rear yard common corridor that will allow residents to access their respective rear yards. Creating an access to the rear yard is desirable for this condominium development so that residents do not have to walk through their dwelling units to access their backyards. There may be construction of future accessory structures or landscaping, so permitting a reduced rear yard setback for this common corridor is desirable in this situation. And lastly, is the variance minor in nature? The proposed reduction of 1.5 meters is minor in nature, as 6 meters, as mentioned, still maintains a sufficient rear yard area, and the proposed variance will not impact any neighboring properties. Based on the planning analysis, staff recommend that minor variance application A-03/22 for Freer Homes be approved, subject to the following: that residential units 1 to 61 shall have a minimum rear yard setback of 6.0 meters or 19.68 feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Kristen Beresdale, do you wish to make any comments?
Through you, Madam Chair. Nope, I have no comments or anything to add. We've had a chance to review the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you. Any members of the public wish to speak on this? Seeing none, members of council. I have Councillor McCreary first.
Yes, I'm just wondering what this common corridor looks like. Is it a pathway? Is it a sidewalk? Is it grass? How is it going to be marked?
Kristen, can you answer, or Christina?
Through you, Madam Chair, the intent, the function of that pathway will be embedded within the condominium document. So as each individual purchaser purchases their property, their lot will be defined and that common space will be identified in the rear of the yards. And there would be requirements or restrictions with regards to having any fencing or any kind of structures within that walkway to prevent them from limiting access from neighbors. I don't have all of the details or information. I suspect it will just remain a grass swale or a landscape swale that people have easy access over.
And I see Shannon Black shaking her head, yes. Councillor McCreary, are you done?
Just a bit of a follow-up question. So this common corridor, it's still going to be privately owned by the condominium owner, the unit owner, but there's going to be kind of like an easement that will allow people to walk through. That's what you're doing?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's my understanding that it will actually be part of the condominium itself, that the 6-foot rear yard will be part of the lot that's associated with the unit. And the space beyond that will actually be part of the common element portion of the condo.
You.
Councillor Rowland.
Madam Mayor, so just for clarification, when I look at the map, Goldie Mill Road and West Mill Street, it's my understanding, looking at construction progress, that those sets of townhouses are backing onto each other. So will it be 1.5 meters taken off of the lots, the rear yards at Goldie Mill, and also 1.5 taken off the lots at West Mill, which equals 3 meters? Or is it a 1.5 meter strip in between the abutting backyards, just for clarification? And then we look at West Mill Street, those lots are basically backing onto the railway spur line. So I assume they will have a 1.5 meter trail behind those. So just curious about between Goldie Mill and West Mill.
So the draft condominium plan shows a corridor of approximately 1.5 meters in width. That would be the common corridor to allow individuals to access their rear and dwelling units.
Councillor Rowland, does that answer your question?
So then I guess as a follow-up, thank you, Madam Mayor. What would be the rear lot sizes for Goldie Mill and West Mill?
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Rowland, it would vary from unit to unit because there's not a consistent width between the building faces as we went rear faces as we know them today. The minimum of the rear yard amenity would be 6 meters. Some will be slightly deeper, depending upon the angular plane of the building, of the context of the internal road systems.
Anything further, Councillor Rowland? Seeing no more hands, can I have the motion, please? Can I ask the public?
Moved by myself and by Councilor Curry that the adjustment CP report number 21-2022 and a minor variance application A-03-2022 being requested to permit reduced rear yard setback to facilitate construction of 61 row townhouse dwellings be approved, subject to the following conditions. A, residential unit 1 to 61 shall have a minimum rear yard setback of 6 meters or 19.68 feet.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will have a motion to adjourn and meet as council again. Please, Councilor Westwood.
I'll move by myself and seconded by Councilor Roman that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting of the Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 7:44 p.m. and the council meeting be called back to order.
All those in favor? Carrie, thank you. We now have 8.1, which is report number PD-24-2022 statutory public meeting, Westwood Village Phase 2, file number ZC-03-/21, OPA-01/21, 30T-21301 and 30T-21302. Notice was given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The clerk will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the clerk's division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified by the decision or convening of future meetings. I'd now like to introduce Andrew McNeely, CAO as Chief Administrative Officer, who will be presenting this application. Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. Tonight, we are holding a statutory public meeting to deal with an official plan amendment, 2 plans of subdivision, and an implementing zoning bylaw amendment. The development is comprised of 2 separate property ownerships. Brian Dawn, and the second is Hallman Construction Limited. This public meeting is dealing with all 4 planning applications and dealing with both development parcels in one consolidated public meeting. There is one report prepared by staff dealing with each of the 4 applications affecting the 2 properties. This is being undertaken because these properties, the technical reports that were prepared by the proponent in support of the planning applications and the review, it was undertaken in one integrated context because of the emerging neighborhood and the interface between the properties. The purpose of the public meeting this evening is designed to provide an overview of the development proposal and the various Planning Act applications, to identify any issues to be assessed by staff as part of a consideration of the subject proposal, and to solicit comments from interested members of the public, government agencies, and other stakeholders that could be reflected in a future report to Township Council on the merits of each of the 4 Planning Act applications. To provide some context, these lands are located adjacent the City of Cambridge Township of North Dumfries municipal boundary, situated to the north of the Glenham Road, Roseville Road interface. Roseville Road is situated within the Township of North Dumfries, as under the jurisdiction region of Waterloo. Glenham Road is within the corporate limits of the City of Cambridge and is a city local road. The subject lands are located north, as I said, of the Glenham Road, Roseville Road corridor. They're situated to the east of Crookston Creek. The lands form part of lots 13 and 14, concession 11, and part of the road allowance between concessions 11 and 12, all within the Township of North Dumfries. The Westwood Village Phase 1 development lands are situated to the limit, within the limits of the City of Cambridge. There's been historic planning approvals conferred to those lands within the City of Cambridge for both a secondary plan, implementing zoning bylaw amendment, and various draft approved plans of subdivision. The lands subject to the public meeting this evening represent the second phase of the Westwood Village development, and effectively would represent an extension to that earlier development.
Can you move your slides forward, Andrew?
And represent an extension to the emerging neighborhood that was previously approved within the City of Cambridge. So looking at the aerial photo on your screen, the area shaded in pink are the two lands that are situated within the corporate limits of the township of North Dumfries and are subject to the CD's public meeting. So this parcel located where I'm circling is the Dom lands, and this L-shaped configuration is the Holman construction lands. The existing approved developments, Westwood Phase 1, located within the corporate limits of the city of Cambridge, are shaded in green. This is Roseville Road to the south of the subject lands, and as mentioned previously, this is the city, within the city. This is the Blenheim Road corridor, sorry, the realigned Blenheim Road corridor. Existing urban neighborhood within the boundaries of the city of Cambridge, situated to the northeast. We have the Crookston Creek Beckle environmentally significant landscape framing the south, west, and north around the adjacent property. Forest Lake is in this general location, south of Roseville Road. As mentioned, we do have an official plan amendment. I'm going to provide a very brief overview of the intent of the official plan amendment and the genesis of how it's come about. The application file number is OPA 01-21. The principle of urban development on these subject lands has been established. That is the result of an Ontario Municipal Board hearing and a subsequent local planning appeal tribunal. These two entities are precursors to what we now know as the Ontario Land Tribunal. In April 2018, the board dealt with a settlement dealing with an earlier appeal of the original official plan that included these lands into the urban area designation within the limits of the township of North Dumfries. In 2018, the local official plan was dealt with to conform with policy directions and designations as established through the regional official plan. The LPAT decision, the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, designated these lands urban on map 2 of the township's official plan, and then made a specific policy reference unique to these properties under policy 252B sub 4. This designation with this special policy identified a higher density and a broader range of mixture of uses versus what it would be traditionally found elsewhere in an urban area in the township. And essentially, these lands, by this policy, are to be treated similar to what you would witness in the cities of Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge. So higher density and a broader range and mix of residential uses. Arising from the 2008 LPAT decision, there was an agreement that there would be enhanced policies established in the township official plan dealing with the future approvals associated with both the Dom and Holman construction lands. And specifically, that there would be a preparation of a secondary plan. The secondary plan is a more detailed analysis of property or properties, looking at, amongst other matters, the issues of hierarchy of residential uses and where they could be positioned within the larger land holding, looking at urban design policies, open space and environmental systems, servicing, transportation policies, and a hierarchy of road systems designed to service the emerging, in this case, residential area. The proposed official plan amendment is to provide that land use framework and to provide the detailed planning and development of the Westwood Phase 2 area, and to ensure the proper integration and interface with the now approved Phase 1 neighborhood situated within the boundaries of the city of Cambridge to the east. Another key objective, both in the Phase 1 and Phase 2 areas, so both within Cambridge and within North Dumfries, was to look at and ensure the appropriate limits of development and appropriate mitigation measures to ensure the protection of the core environmental features associated with the adjacent Blair, Blackville, Brookston environmental sensitive lands, which are situated to the north, west, south of the lands that are subject to tonight's public meeting. The proposed amendment was also to reflect upon the earlier work done as part of the broader Cambridge West Master Environmental Servicing Plan, or MESP, to ensure that the planning that was originally done within the boundaries of Cambridge were properly carried forward and integrated into the emerging residential neighborhoods on the Dom and Holman construction lands. So there was, to go with the land use policies that were to be established dealing with that myriad of topical areas, we also had to amend the urban classification that shows up on map 2 of the township's official plan by adding another policy. That's policy 2613.5. And essentially what that does is it embraces the secondary plan document, which is specific to these lands, and brings it into the township's planning document. Schedule C, which is on the right-hand side of the screen, is the new land use schedule that shows the hierarchy of land use activities. So the yellow shaded areas would be your low density residential areas, predominantly made up of single detached dwellings of varying frontages and lot areas. The orange being clustered on-street townhouse developments, so more of a medium density fabric. This red area located in the southern limits of the plan would be your high density residential development. Along the outer edge of the entire neighborhood is the expansion of the environmental protection area, recognizing the sensitivity of the adjacent Brookston Creek Valley system and associated environmental system. And then we have a series of corridors and linkages. This arrow, green, moving in an east-west manner, is a wildlife corridor, which allows wildlife to move from the Brookston Creek Valley system through the urban fabric in a protected corridor that then links to a similar network that was already approved in the adjacent city of Cambridge boundary. And so it allows wildlife through this protected corridor to move into the Devil's Creek area, which is situated further to the east. The heavy blue shaped lines with the arrows represent the collector road system. They are within the limits of the city of Cambridge and form part of those earlier draft approved plans of subdivision within the city. The green dots represent conceptually where we may have neighborhood parks or parkettes to support the emerging residential fabric. And then you can see conceptually the local road system, including a minor local road to act as a collector to bring traffic out to the main north-south collector that's situated within the city of Cambridge. As I mentioned previously, there are two separate plans of subdivision, known as 30T21301 and 30T2302. Obviously, the plans of subdivision are designed to establish the proposed lot and road fabric for each of the two development properties. As an aggregate total, if we were to bring the sum of both plans together, we would be looking at a combined yield of between 420 to 656 dwelling units. Development in this neighborhood is designed to be on full municipal services, and that would be an extension of water and sanitary from the city of Cambridge into these development lands. That will require a cross-boundary servicing agreement. And because the region of Waterloo is the operator and approval authority for water and sewer within the Township of North Dumfries, they would be entering into an agreement for cross-boundary municipal services with the city of Cambridge. Road access to these two plans of subdivision would be through the initial phases of development within the earlier phases of the Westwood Village Phase 1 neighborhood to the east. Specific to the Brian Dom subdivision, so on this screen, you can see marked in the heavy outside line is the development parcel of Brian Dom, file number 30T2031. There is a total of somewhere between 119 to 152 units within this plan of subdivision, and it would include a yield of somewhere between 114 to 134 single detached dwellings. There'll be up to 12 townhouse or apartment type dwelling units. There are 3 park blocks proposed, and there's an internal road network, obviously with the local road system connecting into the adjacent Hallman construction lands. Moving to the next plan of subdivision, this is the Hallman construction limited property, subdivision file 30T21302. This property contemplates the creation of various lots and blocks that would total somewhere between 311 to 504 dwelling units. And as you can see, this property surrounds the Dom lands. This is the Dom lands in this location. So to the north and to the east are the Hallman construction lands forming an inverted L. This property contemplates creation of between 200 to 242 single detached dwellings, 52 to 77 townhouse dwellings, and 59 to 185 townhouse or apartment type dwelling units. There's also a park block and a wildlife corridor block proposed. The internal road network obviously connects with the Dom property, which we just spoke to a moment ago, and connects through 3 different locations into Newman Drive, which is the primary north-south mid-block collector that's situated within the city of Cambridge. Phasing and integration between Dom and Hallman is critical to allow these developments to occur because of the road connectivity, as well as site servicing in terms of municipal water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater management.
Andy, can I interject for a second? Can you go back to the previous page before I forget? So page 10. Oh no, it was the map, and there was that little section coming, looked like from the Hallman property right there in the dark. And it says stage, I can't read it. That there, what's that?
So that property actually is going to be shown as what we call a part block.
Yeah.
And there will be, through a merger of property title, a corresponding piece within the city of Cambridge, and the sum of the 2 pieces then becomes a development block. So unto itself, this is not a developable piece. It actually has to be merged through the subdivision process with the corresponding parcel within the city of Cambridge to create a developable resident, in this case, residential parcel.
But is that portion in North Dumfries?
That little island that you see is within North Dumfries. The majority of the buildable lot is within the city of Cambridge. Access and services are provided through the corresponding piece within the city of Cambridge as part of the development review and approvals process, which will likely be in the form of condition of draft approval. It will talk about this piece being merged in title with the adjacent parcel within the city of Cambridge to create a new legally described parcel.
Thank you.
So this screen just shows you if we were to consolidate both the Dom, so this is the Dom property, and this L-shaped being the Hallman property. I apologize, Madam Mayor. It's combined with the piece within the Hallman lands. There's a different piece that has to be combined with our counterparts in Cambridge. So this piece you spoke of before has to be combined with the adjacent piece within the Hallman lands, all within the township boundaries. But the principle is the same. There will be a condition of title, conditions of draft approval, which would merge this piece into one consolidated title.
Thank you.
So you can see through this consolidated plan, the road network crosses over the artificial property line between Dom and Hallman, both in a north-south and east-west fashions, to provide integrated road connectivity. And then the connection points through to Newman Drive, which is situated within the city of Cambridge, providing the primary spine of access through to Glenham Road, Roseville Road to the south. The next application is the zoning bylaw amendment, file number ZC0321. And essentially, the zoning bylaw amendment is designed to implement the two plans of subdivision that we just spoke to, as well as the appropriate policy direction on land use designations that were established in the official plan amendment, which I spoke to at the outset of my presentation. The zoning bylaw amendment will establish a hierarchy of residential zones to recognize those single detached dwellings that we spoke of a moment ago, which may have varying frontages, the townhouse developments, as well as medium density blocks. It will recognize the open space corridors, whether that be the wildlife corridor that I mentioned previously, or the expansion of the environmental protection classification within the Crookston Creek Valley system. And then finally, the parkland blocks would be recognized through zoning to recognize them as part of the open space system. When we look at the specific residential classifications, which were appended within the attachment to the staff report, there are varying residential zone classifications by category, and within each category it speaks to the type of dwelling units that are permitted, the minimum lot frontage, lot area requirements, setbacks of those buildings vis-a-vis the property lines, whether it be front yard, side yard, rear yard, building height, and other similar regulatory requirements to govern future use and building within the respective lots. And this zone schedule is an extract of what the land use schedule would look like. So you can see the road fabric. It's a point of reference for the two properties, Hallman Construction and the Dom property. The majority of the property in yellow recognizes the predominance of single detached type dwelling units. The orange in this location recognizes the townhouse units that would front onto the flanking streets. The purple color here being the high density residential. And then in the green, sort of dark green, you see the parkettes, the neighborhood park, the view corridor parkette, this location. The lime green at the perimeter is the expansion of the environmental protection zone, recognizing the adjacent Crookston Creek Valley system.
Andrew, before you switch, what's the hashtag? You see the graded, yeah, that square.
So that hash basically speaks to lands that are going to be zoned residential, and it's a form of a cluster type, whether it be single detached or townhouse units or an intermix within that block.
Thank you.
So it would likely be established through a future site plan to give the fabric of that block when it's developed. So just giving a quick snapshot and reference back to provincial policies and governing documents. And specifically, we're looking at the provincial policy statement and the places to grow the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe area. There are three general themes that are relevant to this discussion that inform both the original decision that the board ratified back in 2018 and obviously establishing the official plan amendment policies through the secondary plan that I spoke of a moment ago that informs plan the subdivision and the implement zoning. One is that growth is to be directed to settlement areas, in this case, an urban area. And the overall objective is to protect farmland and natural heritage systems that are found throughout the rural countryside. We're looking at a compact urban form of development that supports transit and active transportation systems. So as I mentioned previously, specific to this designation on these two land holdings, the densities will be higher than what we would experience normally, let's say, within the community of Ayr in terms of jobs and persons per hectare. And these provincial documents also speak to a mix and a variety of housing built forms and densities to support a broad range of housing for future residents. With respect to correspondence from members of the public, we received correspondence from Rare Charitable Reserve. They own a series of properties adjacent to these two development parcels. And in their email of May the 11th, they expressed concerns about issues like trespass and the like. They've got some portions of their property where they do not wish to promote public access because of either research assignments that are underway or just because of the unique ecological aspects of portions of the property. And some of those holdings do frame or proximity to these two development lands. With respect to government agencies, we have correspondence received from Grand River Conservation Authority, Energy Plus, now known as Grand Bridge Energy, the two school boards, Public and Catholic District, the City of Cambridge themselves corresponded on Monday, and the region provided comments late this afternoon. Those two pieces of correspondence from the city and the region were circulated to members of council as part of the addendum because they were received after the agenda had been posted. Reading through from the 6 agencies, there were nothing fundamental raised as concerns or issues. The focus of the comments are on implementation or coordination elements of the development applications, and obviously the interface with the Westwood Village Phase 1 development situated within the city of Cambridge itself. So when we look at planning issues and overview, in other words, things that we'll be focusing on over the next few weeks and months as it relates to all 4 planning applications, our attention will be drawn to, obviously, does the proposed development as advanced by the owners conform with the township's official plan and the proposed amendment to the official plan. Because remember, we have the implementing documents with plans of subdivision and zoning, and so there has to be a connection back to the intent of the draft official plan amendment. Obviously, we're looking at compatibility and the desirability of the emerging built form with adjacent uses, whether it be the Westwood Village Phase 1 that's within the city of Cambridge, because we want to look at one broad neighborhood, forgetting about the municipal boundary. It should read as one cohesive, integrated development. We are looking at the range of zone classifications, the standards and regulatory provisions that are being drafted for each of those zone classifications, and how does that inform the emerging built form. The appropriate mechanisms to address the development of the lands, whether it be drainage, grading, site servicing, the future cross-boundary municipal servicing, stormwater management. The vast majority of stormwater developed in this development will actually be piped across the municipal border and into treatment storm pond facilities that have already been approved within the city of Cambridge that were designed to accommodate the major minor flow from the Phase 2 area. We're obviously very concerned about protection of natural features, and specifically the broader Cookson Creek environmental landscape, urban design, and compatibility between the emerging streets and the fabric on those respective streets. Is there an alternative configuration that may support active transportation and transit type services. The park blocks, are they appropriately sized? Are they in areas that would support the emerging residential fabric and the density of development? Open space will be an important component in that regard as the parks would become neighborhood hubs of activity. The emerging fabric of development, obviously we're very interested in the active transportation component as well as transit services to support the emerging residents of this neighborhood. The core environmental features, not only have we properly protected and recognized those features, but where possible, have we been able to enhance those features, perhaps through edge management practices and specific plantings within the buffer area. Does the official plan amendment and the respective draft plan applications properly account for and implement the conclusions from the earlier approved master environmental servicing plan? And does the emerging lot and road fabric of the two plans and the phasing scheme that would be necessary to bring them to fruition, does it create one urban neighborhood when we look at it in the context of the Westwood Village Phase 1 area, which has already been approved to east within the city of Cambridge? So, Madam Mayor, the recommendation of staff is that the report be received and that any comments or correspondence received through tonight's public meeting be returned to staff for further consideration with a future report to council on the disposition of this matter. Madam Mayor, I will answer any questions that council may have on tonight's presentation.
Thank you, CEO McNally. We'll go to the other planners first and come back to questions. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. And I believe Paul and Caitlin wanted to do a presentation.
Is that quicker? Just quickly join on.
Recording in progress.
No. So it's not this.
Do you need help, guys? Oh, that's you. Okay, you have to. Ashley, will you do that for them, please? Yeah. She'll be right there. It just takes a second to fix it.
Yeah, apologies for the technical difficulties, Madam Mayor and council staff and virtual public community in attendance today. My name is Paul Britton, and I'm a partner and vice president of HBC Planning. And with me in person today is Jeff Martin and Garrett Corbett of MDE, and they're the civil engineering consultants, hydrogeologists, and stormwater management specialists as part of the team. Caitlin, of course, who has done a lot of the urban design work. And attending virtually today are other members of the team, which include Jim Matt Brower from Paradigm Transportation Solutions and Jeff Gross from WSP. who is our environmental consultant, and has been for many, many years. So it's our pleasure, Madam Mayor, to appear before you. There's a lengthy history, and I think for the sake of brevity, I would not repeat Andrew's presentation, but I simply wish to highlight some of the main components of the design, what has gone into it, the background, and thinking process. So I would say that speaking to the mic.
No, I was going to say sincerely thank you for that. We already stated.
Yes. So just to advance, in terms of who the clients are, there's two property owners, and I wanted to sort of credentialize them a little bit for you today. One is Hallman Construction Limited, and it's a firm that has been working in Waterloo region for over 50 years. And just a little bit about Hallman Construction. They're the development arm of the Hallman Foundation, and I think some of you may know that. So the development arm makes the money, so the Hallman Foundation can spend the money in the community. And so it's been an excellent relationship as between the development arm and the foundation arm. And I've been the planning consultant of record for Hallman Construction for some 35 years, and it's been a tremendous relationship. And then the other property owner is Brian Dom, and I think some of you will know Brian Dom as both a farmer, a local business leader, as well as a resident of North Dumfries Township. So they're the two owners, and the partnership between them has been great, as evidenced by the integrated thinking as far as the plans of subdivision that are before you. I've mentioned the consulting team, so I can skip through that. As far as the lands themselves, I think just to provide some context, as part of the planning for the Westwood Village Phase 1 community, all along we had regard to the fact that the lands in the township were designated as urban in the regional official plan as well as the township official plan. So in terms of the macro infrastructure planning, all along we've had regard to these lands. It's been somewhat complicated, of course, because of the jurisdictional issues as to, some of the lands are in the city, some of the lands are in the township, some of the services are provided by the region. But what I wanted to indicate is the level of cooperation between the township, the city, and the region has been nothing short of spectacular. And I would appreciate and extend my appreciation to Mr. McNeely for facilitating that process with us. As Andrew has indicated, there's 4 applications before you. We've got one secondary plan which deals with both properties, one zoning bylaw amendment which deals with both properties, and then 2 plans of subdivision which have been coordinated together. In terms of the process approach, Andrew's touched on it. The whole approach was to ignore the property lines and to come forward with comprehensive planning solutions and design solutions that consider the lanes together, but importantly, consider them as part of the overall Westwood community, although it's phase 2 of the Westwood community. And the intention is to complement what has been done, but not necessarily repeat. I'll get into that a little bit later on. In terms of contextual analysis and planning that's occurred, there has been a high level of coordination between land use and infrastructure planning. And it started with the Cambridge West MESP, it was called, and that laid the foundation for the environmental planning, the infrastructure planning, road network, and stormwater management design and associated servicing strategy. So what is before you is, in my opinion anyways, plans of subdivision that reflect and implement those broader based planning documents that have been approved in contemplation of these lands ultimately being developed. I noted too, in terms of some of the infrastructure planning, there have been municipal class EAs that have been approved in an integrated fashion with the planning process associated with Westwood 1 within the city of Cambridge. And importantly, the EAs covered off topics such as stormwater management and the Schedule C class environmental assessment processes associated with the collective road network that is designed to facilitate the phase 1, phase 2 community And the collector road network includes Bismarck Drive, the Newman Drive extension, and the realignment of Blenheim Road. And I can assure Township that Blenheim Road will be reopened shortly. We're anticipating that the phase 1 community will be registered hopefully tomorrow.
Thursday this week by the latest?
Yes.
Please.
Yes, please. We're doing our absolute best, and I don't have gray hair tonight. So in terms of the planning documents, I think Andrew's touched on those, but very high level. The lands are designated as urban area, even though they're within the township, just because of the natural association of these lands with the lands within the city of Cambridge. And with that urban designation comes a higher expectation in terms of responsibility to accommodate additional densities. And the services that essentially are now constructed have been designed to accommodate those lands. We did have a pre-submission consultation, and as I indicated, it has been an excellent process of collaboration with township staff, City of Cambridge staff, Division of Wildlife, and GRCA. And the consensus from the initial pre-consultation meeting is we should have a design charrette with staff to provide some overall design direction to the community, to the secondary plan and the plans of subdivision. And those design directions have really provided the direction to the plans that you're before you this evening. In terms of vision, we didn't start with a design. What we started with is a design vision. And key to the whole planning for Westwood 2 is the objective of seamlessly integrating with the phase 1 community. So by seamless, it's the road network, it's the connections to the multi-use trail system, the extension of sidewalks, stormwater management and servicing, and importantly, the connectivity between environmental features that are located within the city of Cambridge and those that are located within the township. So I won't go through each bullet point, but we then move from the design vision to objectives and it's primaries. But I think one thing I wanted to note is the one deviation from the MESP is Mr. McNeely at the outset of the process challenged us to come up with a servicing and grading solution that didn't require unattenuated stormwater management to be directed to adjacent wetlands to the west. And taking up on that challenge, we've come up with solutions that essentially direct all stormwater management flows to stormwater management ponds that are now built within the city of Cambridge. So it was positive direction. It was a big challenge, and we're very pleased and proud of the designs which are before you. We, developed some themes around natural heritage, parks, open space, placemaking, walkability, and sustainability. And you'll see in the background documentation, and it's somewhat unique to our firm, is we do have detailed sustainability statements that speak to how we build, how we manage our site, environmental stewardship, stewardship recognition, collaboration and cooperation with BRARE. And we do have a long history of coordinating and cooperating with BRARE as a neighbor and a significant landowner and a steward of land. So in terms of the natural heritage, Andrew had mentioned the adjacent core features to the west. And in large part, those features serve to delineate the extent of the urban area expansion, with the ESL then providing the permanent boundary, if you will, between the urban area and the township lands to the west, which are a rural combination of environmental features and agricultural land. You can see the green arrow, and through the environmental assessment process associated with the collector road network, the eco passage within Newman Drive was approved. It's under construction, and that eco passage then is intended to provide that connectivity between the central wetland to the east and the ESL to the west. As far as parks and open space system, we planned and took a look at what was happening within the phase 1 community. We identified gaps in terms of walkability between the parks associated with phase one, the existing park system to the north. And then we located a park conceptually central to the phase two community with the objective of filling in those gaps and then providing accessibility, connectivity, and linkages between the various parks within the phase one and phase two communities. We sized the park based on a conceptual design in terms of how it's to be programmed as a neighborhood park. And that design is conception. Of course, it's subject to input and collaboration with your staff. In terms of walkability and active transportation network, I would be remiss if I didn't note that in terms of the EA for Bismarck Drive and Newman Drive, there's multi-use trails that are planned and will be constructed within the road allowances. And what we've done is we've lined up the streets and sidewalk system to connect with the streets within the phase one community. And those streets then have various walkway connections to the trail network, largely associated with Devil's Creek DPs. As far as placemaking, because Blenheim Road is not quite open yet, some of you may not have seen what I think is a fairly spectacular placemaking project associated with the phase one and phase two community. It's the roundabout at Bismarck Drive and reline Blenheim Road. When we were going through the process, we were challenged, I think, both by the township and by the city to recognize that realigned Blenheim Road is a significant gateway opportunity, both coming into the city of Cambridge, but importantly coming into the township as well. So what you'll see is a significant gesture within the roundabout, heron sculptures, a dry river, symbolic of some of the architecture in the area. There's spires and a bridge structure, and that will all be complemented with some fairly spectacular planting along the steep slope that's associated with Blenheim Road. And the placemaking that we're proposing at the main entry points to the phase two community are intended to complement a lot of the stonework that is under construction now as part of phase one. As far as sustainability, I've mentioned some of the environmental initiatives. I note the comments from RARE in terms of desire for naturalization of the buffer. We're committed to that. We're committed to the fencing, the signage, environmental stewardship. The intention is to collaborate with RARE in terms of an awareness of what RARE is all about as an awareness program and education approach to future residents within the community. Stormwater management and servicing, I'll just touch upon it. Essentially, the stormwater management facilities required for phase two are built, and they will accommodate the, they are built within phase one and will accommodate phase two. The sanitary services, the water servicing, the trunk sewer expansions have all occurred with all being constructed with capacity to accommodate the lands. And water mains, you'll see the comment from the gas utility that planning is well underway, and we made sure that through what we're doing within phase one, that capacities are in place for phase two. I think importantly, what's happened over the course of some 15 years anyways, is that the land use and infrastructure planning has been coordinated together as good planning and good engineering should be. And that's really in consultation with your staff and with staff of the city of Cambridge. As far as the community design concept, Andrew touched upon it, the grid pattern of streets, but importantly, Central Park, connectivity to the existing community, and protection of environmental features, views to the natural features. But because of comments from RARE and the sensitivity associated with the buffers associated with the ESL, trails immediately adjacent to the rear lands are not proposed. So I just wanted to highlight that for you. And it's similar to RARE's input to the Grand Ridge Estate subdivision in the city of Cambridge, where at one time there was a lookout proposed, but in response to some of their stewardship objectives, including the potential to consolidate lanes within the corridor, that trail access is not proposed, and In the alternative, we've got a good system of connected sidewalks, the multi-use trail system, and then connection back to Devil's Creek. So in terms of design elements, environmental features are to be protected and enhanced. An eco passage is proposed and it's already been approved and partially constructed. Wetlands will be maintained and storm flows will be directed away from environmental features. A comprehensive planned community comprised of both Westwood 1 and Westwood 2 are proposed. And that includes a mixed-use block at Blenheim Road and Bismarck Drive. A school has been planned within the phase 1 community. So the sidewalk and trail system has been designed to provide direct connectivity to that elementary school site. You'll note from the comments from the separate school board that there is capacity within the separate school system in the school that's immediately to the north. Walkability was key, sustainability, and all those things in terms of design elements and objectives, I think would be well reflected in the plans which are before you. So this is the Consolidated Job Plan, and the only thing to note is that the plans that be designed together, well, actually, we started off not having these plans. We just designed the lands so that they would work, and then we figured out the logistics from there. So, summary and conclusions, it's been our pleasure to collaborate with staff at this point. It's been an excellent collaboration with all area municipalities, including the city, the region, and township in particular. So the intention here is to be compatible with and act as an extension and a logical extension of the phase 1 community. And that was essential tenet of the design, and it's reflected in the vision, and I think it's well reflected in the plans which are before you. And of course, the importance of protecting the environmental features. So I would just end, Madam Mayor, by saying from a professional planning perspective, I think the plans which are before you certainly conform with the regional official plan, or consistent with the provincial policy statement, and reflect the growth plan as it's being revised and amended over time. And we think, you know, with some work with staff, we're very proud of the accomplishment here. Most importantly, we're proud of a lot of the design elements that will take shape before your eyes and that are under construction. And one of the most important elements of the broader community is the Holman Construction / Foundation has committed to build what's called Bismarck Park North. That park will include a place set for juniors and seniors. It will include a splash pad. It will include an outdoor ring. It will include a skate park, and it's just going to be a phenomenal placemaking opportunity for the combined. So we're delighted to be able to work in the township, in the city of Cambridge. Hopefully, through the process, we can get excited about the end result. So thank you.
Thank you. Would any other members of the public wish to speak? Can you take down your slideshow, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Seeing or hearing from no one, if they wish to speak, councillors, would you like to speak? Can we take it back to so I can see everyone, please? Thank you, Cynthia. Councillors, any comments? Councillor McCreary.
This is probably like a very old issue, but I just wanted to know, why did Blenheim Road get moved? Why was it? I know it's in the city of Cambridge, but I'm just curious why that happened.
Yes, if I may, and to Madam Chair, is when we went through the class environmental assessment process, what we did is we looked at a number of different considerations, and one of the key considerations was the alignment of Old Blenheim Road and the crossing at the rail track, which was deemed to be unsafe. So as a result of that consideration, the road was realigned to ensure that there was an appropriate crossing for public safety reasons.
So what happens to the old road?
The old road is owned by the city of Cambridge. It will be legally closed as a road. Part of it will be incorporated as a community trail, and part of it will be access to the region's chlorination facility, the white ground facility, and then part of it will be incorporated as part of an easement for water servicing for the entire community. So it will not be open to traffic, but it will be repurposed for different reasons.
Councillor Roman.
Madam Mayor, I know early on one of the concerns was potential environmental damage to Barry's Lake. And I know that seagulls work pretty hard to mitigate that. Are we satisfied that the measures taken to contain stormwater within the city of Cambridge boundary will prevent damage to Barry's Lake?
So, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Roman, yes, we're very, very pleased with the work with respect to the Master Environmental Servicing Plan and the accommodation of urban stormwater that would be created by Phase 2 lands and being directed across the municipal boundaries into those large facilities situated within the Phase 1 development plans. The added elements that were built into the environmental assessment process, as well as the conclusions of the Master Environmental Services Plan, also dealt with things like the chlorides for winter maintenance practices, because obviously we didn't want that urban runoff to cause harmful impacts on the adjacent receiving streams and specific. This was done in a comprehensive manner. It dealt with not only urban runoff, but also the corridors and the features where we could link water with land and habitat, and then the appropriate buffers and transitional areas. So in a comprehensive manner, very, very pleased with the conclusions from that report.
Thank you, Sarah McNeely. I don't see any other questions. Councillor Roman, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On a unrelated note, I'm just curious, one of the other concerns raised early on was the increase of traffic that might migrate through Langdon Drive and into Blair. What sort of plan do we have to basically direct traffic to Roseville Road and to the future roundabout up the 401 corridor that way, as opposed to going through the southern area of Blair?
So I'm going to start the discussion, and I know that Paul, through Paradigm, might have other technical aspects. So part of the road network is the improved corridor east-west that's been established with the better interface of Blenheim Road going into the more established portions of the city of Cambridge. But Roseville Road itself and moving westerly toward Dickey Settlement, and then obviously other north-south connection points. As you know, the region has put interim traffic signals to facilitate turning movements at the intersection of Dickey Settlement Road and Roseville Road. That has allowed some improvements to gapping of traffic, but also the ability to make left turn lanes off of Dickey Settlement onto Roseville Road during peak periods. The other element is the region has presently started design work and environmental assessment reviews associated with a roundabout that would allow for continuous movements at that Dickey Settlement Roseville Road intersection through that improved alignment to deal with both pedestrian vehicles, trucks, as well as farm implement, recognizing that we are very much in a rural environment application. So those elements have been factored into the overall transportation system and the dispersion of traffic to other area road connection points that will be for purposes of focus, whether it be urban, the 401 corridor, or other areas within North Dumfries itself.
As a follow-up, I mean, one thing I have to mention, and my wife will be upset, is the issue of the turtles on Roseville Road. I know I've been out there with her rescuing turtles. What is the plan? And I know the region has undertaken some works, but there's a lot of turtle movement between the various little lakes and wetland areas. With this increased traffic, I've had residents, raise concerns about a lot more death to the turtle population. What sort of steps are we going to take in the township side to mitigate this?
Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Rowland. You're quite correct. There has been a significant history of movement of turtles in the early spring time period, crossing over Roseville Road in the vicinity of Barry's Lake and the associated environmental systems that frame Barry's Lake. The region put in interim measures to, I'm going to use the word guide and corral the turtles to piping systems that go underneath the Roseville Road. What they are doing is they're monitoring, I'll use the word, the success of that interim measure and determining in a more comprehensive manner based on the yearly reviews, what other improvements are required to create a long-term solution. So it is on the radar screen. It's being led by the region, being a regional road, and this interim work that started about 2.5 years ago is being monitored during the peak period when there's movements of turtles between the environmental systems.
Go ahead, Councillor.
The reason why I mention is because I have seen other jurisdictions in Ontario and Canada and perhaps around the world where they provide, we've always seen the corridors, like you talked about the corridors for the wildlife. I've also seen in Europe, for example, bridges over highways to allow wildlife to go over the highways. I've seen various tunnel systems under roads to allow that. Is there a plan for some sort of wildlife tunnel to be built, perhaps through development charges or something, or through working with the developers to allow for movement of not just turtles, but all wildlife underneath this very busy road?
If I may say, McNeely, it was brought up to regional council about a month and a half ago that they are looking at these different options on how to move them, and they are going under the road. They find that that'll probably work the best. So it's updates to come to regional council, and I'll advise you once that has happened. Go ahead.
If I could just add to what Andrew was commenting on, what I can advise council is through the Class EA process for the collector road system. Mentioned the one equal passage on Newman. There's another equal passage on Bismarck, but most importantly, for the realignment of Lennon Road, there's 2 equal passages that have or will be built shortly. The Devil's Creek Culvert, which has been rebuilt, it has been designed and will function as a significant equal passage. And then where Blenheim Road comes into the township, the phase 1 developers have paid for an equal passage underneath realigned Blenheim Road, which will be constructed and implemented shortly. So I just thought you should know that, because that was essential consideration through the Class EA process. And then maybe if I could just also add with respect to traffic, and the traffic issue is you are absolutely right, Councillor, that was a significant issue through the phase 1 process. And we studied it, and I remember Mayor Foxton was in attendance at some of the rally sessions that we did have, and we worked.
I wasn't rally, well, maybe I was.
Because I wasn't either. But we worked very closely with the community in the traffic study, and most importantly, when you look at the design of the collector road network within the phase 1 community, as well as the weighting of the densities. The density is weighted towards the realignment of Lennon Road, so that the traffic then is organized closest to the road that has the greatest capacity. And you'll see with respect to the phase 2 community, the same thing occurs, where we have to come forward with a mix and range of housing types, but we weighted the density as far to the south as we possibly can. And then of course, with the roundabout at Lennon and Bismarck, that's intended to attract traffic because you don't have to stop.
I have a few questions that councillors have done. First off is, I will remember fondly those meetings years ago because they were attended with myself and Claudette Miller, one of the last real fights she had before she passed away. So it was a privilege to be there with her. Sue Studi doesn't own Barry's Lake anymore. Her family is it. So who owns it now? We don't know. Do you know who owns Barry's Lake? I don't know. Okay, my question was, now you did touch on it, the wildlife, the fencing that you're gonna be putting up fencing so that it goes around. Are you putting that up before the build starts so that they won't be impacted while you're building?
That would be the intent. What needs to happen in the normal course is that we would put up a peat wire fence to protect the trees in any event. So we anticipate that's going to happen right from the get-go. Then the other thing that will happen is, as soon as we're able to, the buffer planting will occur. And you know what we work through with the city of Cambridge side is that the buffer planting would take place within 6 months of servicing construction, because you want to get that construction out of the way so you're not, sort of trampling the buffer planting that you're putting in place. So there were some very specific timeframes to ensure that happens sooner rather than later. So that would be the intention here as well.
Excellent, thank you. And Andrew, this special urban designation, it is just that it can't be forced upon the rest of the township. It's because it's urban designation and we're protected basically as a township, correct?
So Madam Mayor, as Paul indicated in his presentation, because these lands physically abutted the emerging urban area in Cambridge, a consistent policy framework was established for the township portion. It is unique to this parcel of land in recognition of the integrated urban neighborhood that was being proposed. The settlement areas, if I look at Elmira or St. Jacobs, or in our case here, they are a different designation and description with a different density threshold than the urban cities of Cambridge, Kitchener, and the city of Waterloo.
Thank you. And I know Steve Sturdy was concerned about people using the lake. Now phase 1 is up and running a bit. Have people gone over and used the lake and done damage? Because it's such an environmental ecosystem.
Not that I'm aware of. And mind you, I don't think people have moved into the community yet. But, the intention here is when we look at the geography of phase 2 is with the fencing, it will be very difficult to sort of walk through, and we're of course collaborating with her with the whole idea of avoiding trespass to the environmental system to get down to the lake itself. And that was essential consideration. So one of the things that in our planning report that we identified as something to address is there's the old farm lane that cuts through the ESL to get from the agricultural fields in the township to the urban area in the city and township now. And the intention there is to decommission that farm lane, and then to, as part of the, Mr. McNeil mentioned environmental net benefits, is to do some restoration in that area so that it becomes a continuous linked open space without the interruption of that farm access.
Thank you. Just a heads up to us, CEO McNeely, is that if people should start to go there, and it is a bog, good spot, our fire suppliers and services will have to be aware because they may need to deal with the assistance out there. I see no other questions. Can I have a motion, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rollerman that PD report number 24-2022 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through public meeting, consultation, and engagement process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to council on disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You can stay for the rest of the meeting should you like. It's riveting.
I think we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Not as riveting as when Claudette was in attendance, mind you. So we are just at the first and second readings.
Confirmatory bylaw.
Yeah, the confirmatory bylaw, please. No, Councilor Query.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rollerman, the bylaw number 3329-22 being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of council on May 17th, 2022, be read first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. And now Councilor Rowland. Join it, please.
For myself and my Councilor McCreary, that whereas business for this public planning meeting has been completed at 8:54 p.m. and be resolved that this meeting adjourned to meet again on June 6th at 6 p.m. for a very special council meeting.
All those in favor? Is it very special, Councilor Rowland? Thank you, everybody.